The Philadelphia Phillies are in complete and utter crisis mode right now, folks. We're not talking about a minor slump or a rough patch that any competitive team navigates during a long season. No, we're talking about the absolute worst record in all of Major League Baseball, sitting at 9 wins and 19 losses. 9 and 19. Let that sink in for a moment. A franchise with a payroll among the highest in the entire sport, a team that put together the second best record in baseball just last year, a roster absolutely loaded with Hall of Fame caliber talent and star power beyond measure, and they're parking themselves in the basement of the entire league heading into May. This isn't just disappointing. This is a 5-alarm fire. This is a code red emergency. This is the kind of performance that keeps front offices awake at night and has ownership scratching their heads wondering how in the world their championship contending roster has transformed into a laughingstock. And after what just went down this past weekend against the Atlanta Braves, it's crystal clear exactly where the problems lie. The Fightin' Phils headed down to Atlanta expecting to make a statement, expecting to get right after riding that 10-game losing streak. What we got instead was a masterclass in offensive incompetence, a showcase of pitching meltdowns at the worst possible moments, and a stark reminder that this team is currently light years away from being the organization we all believed they were heading into the 2026 season. Let's start with the facts of the matter. Friday night's series opener in Atlanta was supposed to be a chance for Andrew Painter to prove he belongs in a major league rotation, a chance to bounce back after his early season struggles had him looking nothing like the phenom who absolutely dazzled in his MLB debut. Instead, what we got was more of the same mediocrity that's plagued this young right-hander throughout April. Painter took the mound for 5 2/3 innings and allowed 9 hits, 2 walks, and 5 earned runs. Just 1 strikeout. 1 strikeout in nearly 6 innings of work. That's not getting quality starts. That's not what you need from a guy with ace potential in your rotation. His ERA is now sitting at a bloated 5.25 for the season, and the question marks around his development are growing louder and more concerning by the day. But here's the thing that really burns you up about Friday night's loss, and yes, it was a loss, 5-3 to the Braves. The Phillies' offense actually showed some fight early on. Trey Turner came out swinging and belted a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning to give Philly an early 2-0 lead. Great, perfect. That's the kind of aggressive baseball you want to see. Then Bryce Harper answered back with a solo shot in the 5th to put the Phillies back on top at 3-2. They were leading the game. They had momentum. They had their star players making noise. And then everything fell apart in the most catastrophic way possible. Ronald Acuna Jr. tied it up with his own 2-run bomb in that same 3rd inning, and then the Braves just took over. Michael Harris II smacked a go-ahead 2 RBI double in the 6th that made it 4-3. A stolen base on an extra base put a runner in scoring position, and then Painter threw a wild pitch that scored the runner, giving Atlanta a 5-3 lead they'd never relinquish. The Phillies left 11 runners on base on Friday night. 11. They had 10 hits but were completely unable to string together consecutive hits when it mattered most. They were 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. That's not baseball. That's leaving money on the table. That's playing T-ball instead of Major League Baseball. The only bright spot on offense came from Adonis Garcia, who put together a 3-hit night, and Garrett Stubbs, who was 2 for 4 despite being on the roster primarily for his defense. But that's not enough. Not even close. When your franchise players, the guys making all-star money, the guys who won you a division title last year, aren't coming through in the clutch, you lose games. And that's exactly what happened. But then something magical occurred on Saturday night that gave Phillies Nation actual hope for just a fleeting moment. Zach Wheeler was making his season debut after missing all of April recovering from thoracic outlet surgery, a terrifying injury that had everyone questioning whether the ace would ever be the same again. And you know what? Saturday night, he looked like Zach Wheeler, like the real deal. Like the guy who's supposed to be a cornerstone of this rotation. 5 innings, 3 hits, 3 walks, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. It was a Cy Young caliber performance for a guy coming back from major surgery. The Phillies needed this. They desperately needed this. And for one night, the offense actually decided to show up and be part of a winning effort. The Phillies absolutely demolished the Braves pitching staff Saturday night, winning 8-5 in 10 innings. And let me tell you, this game featured some of the most entertaining baseball we've seen from the Fighting Phils all season long. 3 triples. 3! Adonis Garcia ripped an RBI triple in the 1st inning. Bryson Scott followed with his own RBI triple in the 4th. Kyle Schwarber added the 3rd triple leading off the 8th, which set up a game-tying sacrifice fly by none other than Bryce Harper. The Phillies had 11 hits Saturday night. Bryce Harper drove in 4 runs. Brandon Marsh was 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and continues to be the most consistent offensive performer on this roster. This was the Phillies baseball we're supposed to be seeing every single night. This was exciting. This was engaging. This was a team that looked like they could compete with anyone in the National League. That 10-game losing streak? Snapped. That weight on their shoulders? Lifted, at least temporarily. For one night, Phillies Nation could exhale. For one night, we could believe that maybe, just maybe, this team was about to turn a corner and start putting together some winning baseball. Then came Sunday, and it was as if someone flipped a switch back to the nightmare setting. Chris Sale is one of the greatest pitchers alive when he's healthy, and the Braves have him in their rotation. That's not fair. That's not right. But that's the Atlanta Braves reality, and that was the Philadelphia Phillies' Sunday nightmare. Sale took the mound for Atlanta's series finale and absolutely silenced the Phillies' bats. 6 innings, 1 hit allowed, 9 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. He pitched like he was in an all-star game or a playoff contest, not a regular season matchup in late April. The Braves' ace was absolutely untouchable, and it exposed the reality that the Phillies' offense simply cannot compete with elite-level pitching night after night. But here's what really stung about Sunday's 6-2 loss. It wasn't just Sale's dominance. It was the complete and utter collapse of the Phillies' pitching staff early in the game. Aaron Nola, who's coming off a career-worst season in 2025, put the Phillies in an absolutely impossible situation by allowing a 3-run home run to Matt Olson in the very first inning. 3 runs. In the first inning. Then, in the second inning, just 1 inning later, Nola gave up 2 more runs on a 2-run homer and an RBI single. The Braves had scored 6 runs before the second inning was even complete. 6 runs. The game was essentially over before most people had finished their Sunday coffee. You cannot pitch like that and expect to win games at the major league level. Aaron Nola went 4 2/3 innings, allowing 7 hits, 3 walks, and 6 earned runs. He's now 1-3 with a 6.03 ERA. Coming off that career-worst 2025 season, Nola has not bounced back. He's not even trending in the right direction. He looks like a guy who's lost confidence in his stuff, a guy who's no longer trusting his pitches, and it's costing the Phillies game after game after game. And yes, I watched this one. I actually watched Sunday's game. Unlike Friday and Saturday when I was tied up with the Sixers and Flyers playoff battles, I could see firsthand exactly how bad this was. I watched Aaron Nola's mechanical struggles. I watched the Phillies offense try to mount a comeback after being down 6-0, and I watched them fail miserably. The Phillies did have one legitimate chance to get back in the game. In the third inning with the bases loaded and 2 outs, down 6 runs, they had an opportunity to claw back into it. Bryce Harper stepped up to the plate coming off a magnificent 4 RBI performance the night before, and he struck out. Just like that, the inning was over. The opportunity was gone. Kyle Schwarber did smack a 2-run homer in the 8th to cut the deficit to 6-2, his 9th home run of the season, but that was all the Phillies could generate. 2 hits for the entire game, 12 strikeouts. That's not competing. That's not baseball. That's surrender. So here's where we stand after this Atlanta series. The Phillies lost it 2-1. They snapped that 10-game losing streak Saturday night, which is something, but they immediately got back in the loss column Sunday afternoon. They're now 9-19 on the season. They're 10 games below the 500 mark before we've even reached May. They're sitting in dead last place in the National League East, 10.5 games back of the Atlanta Braves for first place. And most catastrophically, they have the worst record in all of Major League Baseball. Not the worst in their division, not the worst in their conference, the worst in all of baseball. There are legitimately bad teams around this league. Teams without the talent, without the payroll, without the resources of the Philadelphia Phillies. And yet somehow, this roster has found a way to be worse. Let's be brutally honest about what's actually happening here, because it's not one problem. It's a mountain of problems that have all converged simultaneously to create the perfect storm of failure. The pitching staff, which was supposed to be the strength of this organization, is an absolute disaster. The starting rotation that was built to anchor this team is completely off the rails. Jesus Luzardo hasn't pitched great. Christopher Sanchez doesn't look anything like he did during a stellar 2025 season. Aaron Nola is a shell of himself, and Andrew Painter, despite all that early hype, has proven he's not ready for primetime consistency. Zach Wheeler showed promise in his season debut Saturday, but he's 1 game back from major surgery, so we need to pump the brakes on any premature celebrations there. The bullpen is equally problematic. Tanner Banks, who was supposed to be one of your better relief arms, has a 7.20 ERA. That's not a relief pitcher, that's a batting practice machine. When your closers and setup men are giving up runs like they're playing in a softball league, you're going to lose ball games. That's guaranteed. But here's the real problem, and this is where Phillies Nation needs to have a hard conversation with itself. The offense is completely underperforming, badly, catastrophically underperforming. The star power on this roster is undeniable. Bryce Harper is Bryce Harper. Kyle Schwarber is a professional hitter. Trey Turner should be putting up all-star numbers. Brandon Marsh has been the only consistent thing on offense, and he's thriving. But as a collective unit, as a lineup, as a group of batters that's supposed to scare opposing teams, the Phillies have been a massive disappointment. They'll have those moments, like Saturday night with 3 triples and 11 hits, where they look like the team we all thought we were getting this season. They'll have stretches of an inning or two where they genuinely scare you as an opposing pitcher. But overall, game to game, night to night, week to week, they're playing lifeless baseball. They're striking out constantly. They're leaving runners on base by the dozen. They're failing in clutch moments when it matters most. They're not putting pressure on opposing teams. They're not wearing out opposing pitchers. They're making everyone look good. And you know what's really maddening about all of this? The Phillies came into this season with expectations of being a World Series contender. They were the runaway favorites in many preseason projections to represent the National League in October. They were talking about back-to-back division titles, about contention windows, about championship pedigree. Instead, they're sitting here at 9-19 with the worst record in baseball, 10 games below 500, and looking more like a AAA club than a Major League roster some nights. Is there still time to fix this? Absolutely. It's only the end of April. We have 5+ months of baseball remaining. The season is far from decided. Great teams have come back from worse situations. The Phillies have the talent to go on a massive winning streak and get themselves back in contention. But the margin for error is shrinking rapidly. Every loss that piles on top of each other makes climbing out of this hole more and more difficult. And with the Atlanta Braves already 5 games ahead in the division, the Phillies are staring down the barrel of what could be a very long summer if they don't turn this ship around immediately. They've got that home series starting tomorrow night against the San Francisco Giants. It's only a 3-game homestand before they head back out on the road, but those 3 games are absolutely critical. This is where you can build some momentum. This is where you can start to change the narrative. San Francisco is beatable. The Phillies have all the talent in the world to go into Citizen Bank Park and sweep the Giants. But they need to show up ready to play. They need to pitch competitively. They need their offense to string together some big hits. They need their stars to be stars. The reality is this: the Phillies can't keep playing like they've been playing and expect anything different to happen. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And right now, the Phillies are insane. They're insane for thinking they can win games with pitchers giving up home runs on consecutive pitches. They're insane for thinking they can win ball games when their offense isn't showing up. They're insane for thinking they can coast into May with the worst record in baseball and still be a championship contender. Something has to change. Something has to give. And it needs to happen right now. Not next week, not after another losing streak, not after they drop another 20 games. Right now. This Giants series is a statement series. How the Phillies respond to being exposed by the Braves will tell us everything we need to know about whether they have the mental fortitude to turn this season around, or whether we're looking at a lost year before we even get to the halfway point of the schedule. So here's what I need from you, Fighting Phils Nation. I need you to stay locked in with me as we navigate this nightmare of a season. I need you to believe that there's a turnaround coming. But I also need you to be realistic about what's happening on the field. This team is failing on multiple levels right now. This team is underperforming dramatically, and this team needs to wake up immediately before their season spirals completely out of control. Make sure you hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you think about this Phillies crisis. Are you still believing in the turnaround? Do you think the season is already lost? What moves do you think need to be made to fix this mess? Drop it all in the comments below. Subscribe to the Fighting Phils Report for more daily coverage of Philadelphia baseball. And we'll be back tomorrow night with full coverage of that Giants series starting at Citizen Bank Park. Let's go Phillies. Let's go get right. We've got this, folks. Stay strong, Phillies Nation.